not gonna let me see. Okay, good. Okay.
Hey.
Yeah.
All right, so.
This time I'd like to call the National Board of Education meeting to order. Tonight, leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance will be Christian Powell and Tia Richardson. They're from the Cedar Grove Elementary School. They here?
Which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a little tough.
Hey.
So great. Oh, you doing this? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we adopt the agenda, I'd like to make the motion to add one item, 7.6, substitute increase.
I'll second that.
Motion and second by Ms. Washington. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise, motion carried. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sharp, second by Ms. Chavis. All in favor, say aye. All opposed likewise. This time I'll entertain a motion to approve board minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sharp, second by Ms. Bullock. All in favor, say aye. Motion carried. Now recognitions, Dr. Catalano.
Good evening, Chair Lamb, Vice Chair Sharp, Dr. Ellis, and members of the board. We have got 4 individuals that are our December NCPS heroes that I am going to call forward to receive their hero award. And if I could have Mr. Lamb and Dr. Ellis come forward for a photo. So our first NCPS hero is nominated for honesty and integrity. This person displays a principled dedication to NCPS values and beliefs, always seeks to reflect ethical standards and do the right thing regardless of the circumstances. This is a student from Rocky Mount High School, Samuel Akoto. While Samuel is getting his picture taken, Samuel gets things done without procrastination. He was nominated by a teacher, at Rocky Mount High School. He stays in contact with me and understands the difficult situations we have faced during the pandemic. He will not use that as an excuse for not getting his assignments done. His grades are very important to him, and he does not settle for a passing grade. He wants a perfect grade. He does not necessarily agree with everything, but is open-minded enough to do things the way he's instructed and has the confidence in his teacher's ability to help him become a productive and successful person. He has great drive and is very respectful. Congratulations, Samuel. And our next nominee is nominated for being reliable and collaborative. This person consistently and substantially demonstrates the ability and willingness to work positively, respectfully, and effectively with others. Has significantly improved. This is a student, so that one doesn't apply. We have got a student from Edwards Middle School, Noah Martinez. Noah also was nominated by a teacher who says, Noah is an 8th grader who consistently works to put forth his best effort. He is the one to seek information about his classes as he is consistently engaged and involved. He puts forth his best in his work effort, his community service, his athletic participation, and his extracurricular pursuits. He asks questions for clarity, helping all of his classmates in doing so. He has a good sense of humor and works well with others with the goal for everyone to succeed. Congratulations, Noah. This next individual is nominated for efficiency and innovation. Efficiency and innovation contributes to efficiency or effectiveness through cost savings, creativity, or problem solving, develops new ideas that show promise for a broad impact to Nash County Public Schools. This is a staff member, part of our maintenance department, Jimmy Abrams. Mr. Abrams is an extremely hardworking member of the maintenance department who goes above and beyond when it comes to installing and maintaining heating and air conditioning equipment, and there's been a lot of it with some ESSER funds. Always friendly and willing to help, and always setting the example of what being a part of NCPS really is. Congratulations, Mr. Abrams. And this last person is nominated for outperformance and excellence. This individual contributes to the development and/or improvement of programs, services, or curriculum, fosters growth, effectiveness of professional development, contributes to student success by closing achievement gaps, measuring progress using assessments, implementing interventions, or student engagement, exemplar. Well, this is a staff member. We have got a teacher from Red Oak Middle School, Elizabeth Lane. Ms. Lane has gone over and above this year with supporting students and staff members. She has helped tremendously with all technical issues for her students and colleagues, as well as providing the best learning experiences for her students online and in person. During all this, she has even created professional development for other teachers from across the district to benefit from, as well as being a fishbowl teacher and allowing members from central office and other schools to watch her excellent lessons. She has gone over and above this already challenging year, and that's why she is my hero. She was nominated by a staff member. Congratulations.
Public input. Each month, a part of at least one regularly scheduled board meeting will be set aside for citizens to address the board through public comment. A sign-up sheet will be available in the communication office for any individual or group to indicate their desire to address the board. The deadline is noon the day of the board meeting. Any individual or group can sign up by appearing in person or by calling communications office. The chairperson will decide the amount of time devoted to public comments. Superintendent shall develop additional procedures to ensure that public comment sessions proceed in an efficient and orderly manner. Board members will not respond to individuals who address the board except to request clarification of points made. Except in cases of emergency, information received during presentations will not be acted upon at the time it is received. It will take a unanimous vote of the board members present to take action on a presentation considered to be of unusual or emergency nature at the time it is presented. Disruptions by any person or persons of a public meeting will be subject to action in accordance with GS 143-318.17. If the board does not hold a regular meeting during a month, the board will not provide a time for public comment at any other meeting held during that month unless a majority of the board votes to allow public comment at the meeting or unless the purpose of the meeting is a public hearing. Tonight, we have about 22 speakers. We will have 3 minutes per speak. We will start Stephanie Taylor.
First, I just want to take a moment to recognize and thank everyone who supports making mask optional. If you are here tonight and you support optional masks, please stand or just raise your hand so everybody can be aware. There are also supporters outside who are unable to be here due to the seating capacity. There's also a growing Facebook group with around 350 members in just a few short weeks. It has been amazing to see so many people just come together and fight for what they believe in. Well, as I stand here for the 4th time, pleading with you all to make the right decision, which is making masks optional. Masks have become the focus of the entire school day. Teachers are having to waste so much time policing masks and children are distracted by them. We have been fighting this battle too long. The daily struggles many children are forced to deal with continue to worsen. My concerns from the beginning have been proven right. This isn't surprising because I know my children better than anyone. Sadly, the list of awful side effects continues to grow daily. Most of the board members currently have no children attending Nash County schools. So many will not understand the heartbreak parents experience when your child is forced to comply with a mask mandate that is harmful and overall ineffective. The longer masks are required, the more damaging effects you will cause to many children, which can be detrimental. As I state every meeting, no one is taking your mask away. If you choose to wear a mask and you wear it properly, then an unmasked child should cause you no harm. Tonight, you will hear from others who agree masks should be optional. Each child and family is unique and everyone has their own issues. Please open your mind and your heart and listen to these courageous people who are trying to do what is best for their family. Although your vote is determined, please consider the children who are suffering. We as parents are trying to properly handle it, but we can't because of the board members who continue to vote to take our rights away. It is sad and disappointing the torture many children are experiencing from long-term mask wearing, but this is something you can fix. You all have the privilege to make history by giving us our rights back. Thank you. Having a good night.
Next speaker, Caroline Pan.
Take your mask off. This is my daughter, Sophie Can. If you look where the mask sits, her face is full of acne. She's on medication for this acne. I have to say that when it comes to putting a mask on our children, why are we not looking at Florida and see how their mask optional policy is affecting the COVID numbers. Well, I reached out to Kat Kamak, a congresswoman from Florida, and got the following information. Per Florida Departments of Health and Education data, during September when school was underway and juvenile COVID cases and positivity rates plummeted. No statistical differences between counties without school mask requirements offering opt-outs and counties imposing mask mandates on students. The 54 districts with opt-outs or no mask policy have seen an average decrease of 65% in positivity. And from week ending August 19th, when school started, and ending September 30th, which was the last when they kept those numbers. The 13 districts that broke the law and imposed forced mandates seen an average of decrease of 67%, with an overall rate of 2.5 daily percent of new cases for week ending 12/2/21. Florida is one of the lowest states when it comes to COVID cases, where North Carolina sits at 7.7 daily percentage of new cases for the same time frame. Florida's numbers remain one of the lowest in the country, despite the new variants, as well as having no mask mandates in their policy for public school systems. In addition to the way they do not make it mandatory for a classroom to quarantine or make testing mandatory when a COVID case is discovered in a classroom. I mention this because it seemed to be a sticking point for this board in last month's meeting, since the concern was around the kids having to quarantine entire classroom if a new case of COVID was discovered. They make parents aware of the positive test, but they let the parents decide if their child needs to be tested or quarantined or not. So my question is, why are we not mimicking Florida, which became what I believe proof positive that forced mandates don't work and make masks optional for our children here in Nash County? Thank you.
Next, Robert Cordell. Robert Cordell. Martha Bird.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, superintendent and board members. My name is Martha Bird, as you just heard, and I'm a teacher and the local NCAE president. I am not here to represent an organization or my family and no more. Instead, I am here as a community member, parent, and a concerned citizen, and exercising my right. We are not considered first responders, but we are not considered superheroes, although we've been the first response and we do have superpowers and we exercise them every day in the classrooms. That's all the employees of Nash County Public Schools. We have been treading water for years now with limited resources, and the only thing that we get is basically a cheerleader to tell us, we believe in you, keep going on, you can do this. And then they say, you know what? We'll give you a little help. We'll give you some professional development. Think outside the box. But today I'm saying, show us that you value us as human and stop dehumanizing us. We're asking you to show us that you respect us, that you value us by giving us some money from the ESSER funds. Show us we need this. This is not a want, this is a need. We have been treading water and done everything that you've asked us to do. And you asked us, you know what? We need you to take and do something with this academic gap. Well, guess what? We need your help. We need it. You tell me to self-care, but yet I'm having to take more out my pocket, get a second job and do all of this. We're just asking you to help us. Give us the quality, help us to maintain that quality. Help us to do our job more effectively by not being so tired and stressed out. I mean, you know what? I believe that every worker, I don't care how minimal, is worthy of their hire. Stop, dehumanize us. My thing is, if you honor us, you respect us, then basically show me the money. That means that you got the lifesaver out there, you're dangling in my face, but yet you won't give it to me. You turn out the light and you turn your back on me and give me a cheer and pat me on the back. But our children, we want strong schools, we want strong communities, and we want strong schools. Show us the money, please.
Next speaker, Kathy Hawk. Kathy Hawk.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kathy Hawk, and my husband and 3 daughters recently moved here just a few months ago from central Pennsylvania to Rocky Mount, and so far we love it here. The public schools there left mask optional. Our girls are in 4th and 5th grade at Englewood and 6th at Rocky Mount. 2 weeks ago, I stopped sending them to school 100% due to my 4th grader coming home the Monday after we had that 4-day break, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. When she went to school that Monday morning, she has the skin of a porcelain doll, just perfect. When I picked her up at the end of the day, her entire chin area, and I emailed some people pictures of this, was all broken out. Our 6th grader, every day she comes home from school, her breath smells atrocious. And yes, she does brush in the morning, but the smell in the afternoon is sickening after wearing a mask all day long. My 4th and 5th graders had runny noses all last week being home and blowing snotty noses all day long. Can you imagine them blowing their noses all day long and wearing a mask in school? Yes, my kids are doing the work and I run back and forth to the schools a couple times a week, but nobody wants them in school more than I do, trust me. But I refuse to force this abuse on them anymore. Being foster parents for 14 years, my husband and I had over 60 foster kids that came from abuse and neglect. Prior to COVID, if I would have made any of my foster kids put on a mask in public or in school, I can guarantee you somebody would have called me in for child abuse, and rightfully so. And I would not have been a foster parent. I was their top-notch foster parent in that county. April 15th of this year in the AIER, medical journal, Harvard professor Martin Kulldorff said this: children should not wear face masks. They don't need it for their own protection and they don't need it for protecting other people. I find it sad that none of you have school-age children that I know of or medical credentials, but yet you feel you have the right to force your views and rules on our kids, our parents, your teachers, your staff. And if we don't comply, you're fired. You're out. I can't even go into the school. I'm stopped at the door. How would you feel if I stood up here and preached to all you guys that you need to find God, get saved, to go to heaven for your mental health and well-being? How would you like if I said that to you? And if you don't listen to me and follow my rules, you're never getting to heaven. Okay? Me forcing my beliefs upon you, I consider that bullying. And I think there's about 6 of you people bullying all of us, your staff, your kids, all of us. And I'm done. I'm tired of it. My kids will not go back to school until you guys make it optional. I'm fine with the option. I am more
Thank you.
afraid of my
Time's
kids
up.
getting lice than COVID.
Ellie Hawk, the next speaker.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
before the next speaker speaks, can we ask that the audience refrain from responding? It's
You fine.
distracting.
Thank you. Okay, Ellie.
Why do we have to wear masks? Please let us choose is all we ask. Did not make us this way to cover our mouth and sweat the day. Please, board members, I ask of you, do the right thing and set us free so I can go to school from 8 to 3. My mom has kept me and my two sisters home for the past 2 weeks teaching us, but we want to be in school. Please make mask optional at tonight's vote. My name is Ellie Hawk. I go to Inglewood Elementary School, and I'm in 5th grade.
Next speaker, Danielle Reese. Danielle Reese. Pastor Lynn, excuse me, Ms. Reese is here. Come on, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Danielle Reese.
14 days. That is what they told us. 14 days and we would be able to go back to normal. Yet here we are just 3 short months away from 2 years. 2 years that people have been telling us to live in fear, stay away from family and friends, and don't celebrate holidays. They have kept our children out of school, away from friends and teachers they love and miss. While our children are thankfully allowed to be back in school, their days are far from normal. Now those teachers that are loved by our children are struggling to have a voice. They can't speak out of fear of losing their jobs. They're also struggling in their classrooms with masks blocking the projection of their voice. We are tired of it, and we are going to continue to stand up until change is made. The same people that told us that all we needed was 14 days are the same people that are telling us to continue wearing masks. Those people are also the ones encouraging vaccinations. If you believe in the effectiveness of a mask, then you should trust in their judgment and get the vaccination as well. Get the vaccine and we can all go back to normal, right? Isn't that what we have been waiting for since the beginning? There are no more vaccines. There is no more magic potions in the pipeline. This is it. Every school-age child has the ability to get vaccinated if their parent or guardian chooses to. So what are you waiting for? Are you going to try to move the goalpost again tonight like you have since the beginning of school? Or are you going to keep your word and change this mandate? Ever since the kids have been allowed back in school, you have literally put these children in positions to encourage the need for quarantine. Both of my children's schools, they eat their lunch in the classrooms, at their desks, or outside on nice days. My sons, they only get that reward if they're well behaved. Instead of their perfectly good lunchrooms, they are allowed to take off their masks and eat right next to their classmates. Kids exchange food during lunch all the time. They touch their maskless faces and eat quite possibly without washing their hands first. I guarantee you children touch their face and mouth with dirty hands 10 times more with a mask than they would without. Just imagine what little boys do in the restroom. You should have listened to the story I heard about a little boy that came out of the restroom with a wet mask on, and no, it did not fall in the sink. Unfortunately, we cannot trust that all parents can send their kids to school freshly bathed or with sanitized masks. We can't even control if they are sent to school with clean clothes. I guarantee you many, many masks are thrown on the car floor, stepped on, and then put right back on their faces the next day. We have to stop doing this and give parents an option. I want everyone to be able to make a decision that is best for their family. Please do what is right for everyone and choose optional.
Next speaker, Pastor Lynn Robinson.
My name's Pastor Lynn Robinson. I pastor Rock Haven Church. I've been pastoring a multicultural church for 14 years. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I appeal to you today because that's exactly what this is. This is a trial for our children's health. And our children's health is on, potential health is on the line. And that's what we're up against today. I appeal to your educated minds. We are educators. You are educating our children. We are teaching our children how to behave. And it is our job to present facts. And it is your job as educators and my job as a pastor to preach the truth. And I appeal to you to please look at the truth of the matter. And the truth of the matter is that these masks that our children are having to wear end up potentially being the cure is worse than the disease. Because what happens when our little kids that we know the sanitary habits of little children, they are non-existent for the most part. A lot of the children that I talk to, and I've been doing research, to have one mask that they wear. And what happens after one day of wearing a mask? All of you know what happens, how your mask melts the next day or two after you've worn it a couple of days. You know how your mask smells. Our children are being forced to breathe through petri dishes that are contaminated, that have been put that something that's not supposed to even be contained to our body is sitting there and forming bacteria. And now we're having to filter that into their lungs. Please understand and let us educate ourselves and look at this as a serious cause for the health of our children. If you have an EMT response for nearly anything, the first thing they do is put oxygen on you. That's the first thing they do. And these things are causing our children and causing all of us to not be able to get the adequate amount of oxygen and keep recycling our carbon monoxide. It's causing gingivitis. It's causing all kinds of health issues in the mouth with our children. And I appeal to you to please look at these. We change the filter. We know what happens when we don't change the filters on our heat and air conditioning systems. They're not able to breathe. Our children are not able to breathe. And I appeal to you today to look at this situation and take it into consideration. And so it's a medical problem. It's a medical issue. It's not just an option of whether we want our children to have a mask. It's a medical issue that we are administering something that is potentially dangerous. We wouldn't give our children medications that are potentially dangerous. I hope the school board wouldn't be giving our children potentially medical dangerous stuff. And at last, please realize we can't trust everyone. And I appeal to you, remember the Tuskegee Project. And we can't always trust our government to have our best interests in mind. Thank you very much.
Tommy Sanders.
Good evening, Dr. Ellis and board members. I appreciate y'all for having us tonight. There are 11 counties within an hour drive of us that have optional mask mandates. I have a few good friends who work at several of these schools. They have had no issues from the beginning of August when school started, and they still have very low numbers with COVID. They are eating in their classrooms just like we eat in our classrooms with no problems having that done. One thing I want to know, with all the vaccinations going on, what is the end game for this board? Where do we draw the line? Where do we stop this and say, this is enough? Our kids need to suffer no more. I'm putting that out to y'all tonight. The end game has to be made. Ms. Bullock, you said a few meetings ago that you would look at the mask if it dropped under 5%. The mask mandate in Nash County, if it dropped under 5%. Well, we are now well under that 5% mark here in Nash County. So I am coming to you tonight to please say, reconsider this. I mean, we are here trying to do what's right for our kids. And, you know, we want what's best for them. They're having to wear dirty diapers on their face. I do it every day because I have a job that makes me wear this mask. When I go eat and I get back from work, my breath smells terrible. These masks have given my two small kids anxiety to the point where it's hard for them to function now in school because of these masks. I am to the verge of wanting to pull my kids out, and it really, really makes me sick to know that y'all are not willing to stand up for our kids and do what's best for them. I want to leave y'all with a couple of scriptures tonight. The Bible says we are fearfully and wonderfully made. So that means that God made us to be people who can fight diseases, who can take things and get rid of them because God made us that way. And my next thing is, God says we are not to live in fear. Well, what are we teaching our kids? We are teaching our kids to sin because y'all are making our kids live in sin. And I am tired of it. I attend church regularly. I try to teach my kids the best on church and things like that. And we are not going to live in fear. It is time for us to move forward and get rid of this mask mandate. Thank y'all.
Next speaker, Mary Arrington.
Good evening. You all know me. I've been before you before. I work for Nash County Public Schools, and I'm speaking on behalf of the bus drivers, the monitors, the cafeteria workers, and the janitors. Now, first of all, in regards to the mandate on the mask, if you all vote no mask, what bus driver are you all gonna have to go pick up the children? Because do you think that we want to be on a bus with a bunch of children with no mask? So maybe you all and maybe they can drive their children to school or find other bus drivers to do it. But we are not gonna be on no bus with no mask. We
Please, we don't need any comments from the audience. Go ahead, Ms. Arrington.
we wear our masks. We need to be respected. As you say, we are the most important. That's what we're looking for. We need to be respected as so. We are just as important as each one of you and those out there. So you all need to keep the mask mandate intact, because we're not going to drive if you all take the masks away. And in regards to this sanitizing the buses, the janitors sanitizing, that's not happening in the school system. I have been notified and was told to bring this up. It's not happening. The stuff that they are given to do is no good. You're lacking employees. I went to a restroom, the same thing 3 days in a row was there the third day. So how can anyone be working and doing this? But you all are not standing up to what's supposed to be done and what is said. And we are tired of it. We are tired of it. We as bus drivers are tired of it. It's no respect. We the last person on the totem pole. We are not heard. And we are tired of it. We're going to be heard. We are going to be heard. One way or another, we will be heard. Thank you.
Next speaker, Cassidy Bartholomew.
My name is Chastity Bartholomew, and I have 3 kids in kindergarten, 3rd grade, and 9th grade. I first want to address the fact that as soon as our kids, can you hear me? As soon as our kids leave school, they take their mask off. When they go to daycare, their mask is off. When they go to basketball practice, their mask is off. When they go to dance, their mask is off. When they go to their fighting things, their mask is off. When they go to their youth groups, their mask is off. Everywhere they go but school, their mask is off. They're at school longer than they are anywhere. Longer than they're at home. Almost longer than they sleep. What's it going to take to get the mask off? I hear chuckles back there, but my pastor said this Sunday, he says, when you get used to something, it's easy to make it a habit, but we're not getting used to it. So after 2 years, when is a good time to not make it a habit? After 2 years, when is a good time to take the mask off the children? When you go to the grocery stores, when you go to the football games, when you go to concerts, when you go to Walmart, when you go to Food Line, when you go to the dentist, people have their mask off. And you go there with your mask on if you choose to wear your mask. And the same people that choose to wear their mask at Walmart are same people that's in there with me without my mask on, without my children with their mask on. I mean, you have a choice. And just like my child's basketball team, we have one little boy that chooses to wear his mask, and he wants to wear his mask, and that's okay. We have a lot of children that choose not to, a lot of parents that choose not to, and we have parents with the same children in the same areas with the parents that don't want to wear their children, have the children wear a mask. The same parents have their children with their mask on with our children. They have a choice. And I believe that's how it should be. And that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Next speaker, Cindy Puckett.
I have a few questions for each member that sits on the board. What is the plan? How long do you intend to keep these children in masks? Because COVID isn't going anywhere anytime soon. We're on at least the second variant, and I'm sure there are more to come down the pipeline. You've hidden behind a vote for the past 4 months with no end game in sight. It's not that you're moving the goalpost. You're not even telling us where the goalposts are located. Every month, it's the same thing from the 6 that continue to want to mask our children. I could never live with myself if we lost even one child to this virus. When we have seen that this is not affecting the children like you want us to believe, do you really think the other 5 board members want us to lose anyone to this virus? It doesn't make you sound superior. It makes you sound like you don't care about the other problems that have now been proven to be caused by these masks. I know that each of you receive a daily email from the National School Board Association, and recently you received one that stated keeping kids in masks are proving to have negative health and physical issues, such as respiratory problems and skin irritations. Also, social and emotional learning issues, which is now having to be taught in this district because not only can younger children not understand phonics, they can't read facial expressions. Brown University has a study tracking cognitive development in small children attributed to a dramatic drop in verbal and nonverbal development due to masking. Children are not talking and interacting to each other as they should, resulting in more isolation. We now have 39 school districts in the state of North Carolina that masks are optional, and they are still in school. Have you contacted any of these counties to see how they are making this work? The toolkits are flawed. They aren't followed as they should be. When one of you go to speak, you pull your mask down or you take it off. However, when a teacher is addressing his or her students, they aren't allowed to do that. In this county, that is. I'm sure the argument will come up that the entire class will have to quarantine if someone catches the virus. If you walk into any classroom or down any school hall or into a gymnasium for a basketball game, you're going to see that the percentage is very low of the people that are actually wearing it the correct way. Teachers are not enforcing this. They're tired of it. By the time our students return from Christmas break, everyone that chooses to be vaccinated has had time. If they want to wear a mask, they can. If I sound angry, I am. You were elected to make decisions for our children's education. You were not given a PhD and given the right to decide what you think is best for their health. I challenge the 6 of you that are so eager to keep our children behind these masks to wake up tomorrow morning, have breakfast, brush your teeth, and then put on a mask until lunchtime, at which time you can take it off for about 20 minutes and then put it back on for the remainder of the day. Then do this for the next 4 days. No one is asking you to do away with the mask altogether. We're simply asking that it's optional.
Next speaker, Melissa Chaffin.
Hi, my name is Melissa Chafin. So I heard about the Facebook email group and I was added on there and I saw that I was kind of excited to actually see that people are actually talking about these things. I want you guys to know that I bring a different perspective because I'm not from here. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, and I was military 15 years. And I know even in the 70s, where I grew up as, that decision to join the military as a female, it's pretty sad. People say it's heroic. Well, I didn't. I just went with what I wanted to do. When I joined the all-male wrestling team in high school, that was a heroic thing. I just thought, hey, let me just be part of something. And I have a choice. America here our country is about choices. And I fought for those for 15 years. Don't ask me why I didn't finish the 20, okay? But I still got out honorable, okay? But anyway, we had choices, and that's my freedom. And now I see my daughter and everybody, and they go to school with the mask on. I'm not blaming you guys. If you don't have children or not, I understand. I mean, I'm not going to put that against you because I have a 10 and 12-year-old. And honestly, there's different perspectives that I didn't see. I had a parent that tell me, my 3-year-old son has to wear a mask. And I started getting really upset, more for them than my own kids, because now they're forced to wear that. And they're so free, you know, those are little children and they got to wear them all day long. And when you don't, they feel like they did something wrong. Oh, put that back on. No, you got to put that back on. You got to pick that on. And it's kind of traumatizing, I would think, if you look at it. If I said it, I'm not going to like reenact it right now, kind of did that with the voice thing, but I'm just telling you, if you guys were that little kid, how would you feel? You'd be scolded all day long. And the thing is, the bottom line with everybody here, I've heard like people who wanted the mask and they want to mandate it. And a lot of people want optional. I understand that's a hard decision for you guys to make because you get repercussions either way. That's a big decision for all you guys to make. But I want you to know that I'd be proud of you in this place where I live now and call my home, that you guys made that decision. It's going to eventually have to make it anyways. I'm not trying to tell you have to, but you're going to have to. And once you be the ones and have that legacy, all your names be the one to lift this up and make it optional. And I know a lot of people are very fearful and they want that mandate of a mask. I get it. But before COVID, we were living with masks. We weren't living with masks. We weren't fear as much as we are now. And every time we're into this COVID and the mask is on every day, there's more and more fear. And I feel like fear is more outliving the facts about everything. And we're more living the actual emotion of the fear than common sense. I'm not saying you guys is common sense. I'm saying everybody in general. And that's all I want to say. And thank you so much for letting me be here. I'm honored.
Next speaker, Carrie Robinson.
All right. Good evening. My name is Carrie Robinson. I have 2 children in Nash Rocky Mountain Schools. I'm here tonight frustrated at the school board. 10.5 hours a day. That's all I should be up here to have to say. 10.5 hours a day is how long my children are muzzled every day. A lot of parents here tonight have covered the detrimental emotional and psychological abuse this is causing. I'd like to also point out the physical effect it is having on many children, including my own. COVID-19 is a virus. Some people are going to get it and some people are not. My 5-year-old has severe asthmatic, had coronavirus in January of this year. Her symptoms were mild and a few days later she returned back to school. The problem was returning back to school. Every day she is at school, she struggles. She struggles to breathe. That is a real problem. It should be more of a you problem. As members of the school board, it is your problem because we have given you the authority to make these life-altering decisions for our children, and you are dropping the ball. My child cannot breathe. We have been to numerous doctors, including allergy specialists, pulmonologists, who have all suggested I unmask her. My baby has gone from using an inhaler as needed to depending on it to survive. I have a physician's letter here stating her asthma is being significantly worsened by wearing a mask for such prolonged times daily. We've upped her medications to max dosages. She is using a breathing nebulizer daily, as well as 4 steroid inhalers daily. The side effects are her shaking, rapid heart rate, nasal irritation, which is causing her nosebleeds and coughing. She coughs all day long. It worsens at night. She coughs until she throws up some nights. As a parent, I am heartbroken. I feel completely helpless that the only job that is truly important, keeping her safe. When she is up all night, so is the rest of my household. With little energy and frustrations, we get up and we do it again every single day. You may ask why I haven't utilized a mask waiver for her. While we are in the process of that, the school system isn't handing them out easily. It is taking countless days of missed work and over $1,000 in medical expenses to even get that necessary paperwork. My daughter has missed over 4 weeks of school this year, and now I'm worried that this is undeniably affecting her education. If you had put a mask on this morning at 6:45 and still had it on over your mouth, trying to communicate, trying to breathe, we would not be here tonight. I'd also like to point out that as our teachers and our bus drivers are important, you are not the future. Our children are, and they need to be able to learn and be heard. Thank you.
Next speaker, Al Robinson. Al Robinson. Okay. Next speaker, Tad Richardson on Zoom.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity here. I certainly don't envy your roles right now. My name is Tad Richardson, and I'm an independent marketing consultant working with several stakeholders of Negro Leagues baseball, including the Buck Leonard Association for Sports and Human Enrichment here in Rocky Mount. I represent voices from outside Rocky Mount as well as those from within who all share a vision for its economic and cultural transformation, powered by high visibility partnerships and sponsors like those recently created between the Buck Leonard Association and Major League Baseball Players Association, Epic Games, North Carolina State University, and Thelonious Monk Youth Jazz, all of whom are uniquely attracted to Rocky Mount by the brand of Negro Leagues baseball and its compelling lessons of perseverance, greatness, and pride. Walter Fenner Buck Leonard personified these values and so much more during his lifetime of improbable achievement and selfless leadership. Touted as baseball's greatest gentleman and recognized as one of the game's greatest 50 players of all time, Buck Leonard was born in Rocky Mount and grew up so close to Municipal Stadium that a long home run could very well have rolled into his backyard. Instead of being rewarded for the natural curiosity of a 7-year-old boy, Buck was in fact once arrested for trespassing while trying to sneak a peek through the Municipal Stadium fence during an all-white baseball game. It would be understandable had Buck been dissuaded away from the game and Rocky Mount, yet soon after he began a professional baseball career that would take him all over North and South America, he purchased a home at 605 Atlantic Avenue. Upon retiring from the game in 1955, he promptly completed his education and reinvented himself as a respected public servant, entrepreneur, and businessman. Improbably, Mr. Leonard returned to Rocky Mount Municipal Stadium in 1962, serving 13 years as vice president for 2 minor league professional baseball teams who called his old neighborhood park home. With a stated mission to activate the intergenerational advancement and historic preservation of our community, the Buck Leonard Association has a long and successful history of carrying on Buck Leonard's legacy as a proud son and servant of Rocky Mount. On multiple occasions, including a letter to the NCSB attorney dated November 11th, the Buck Leonard Association has requested to negotiate privately with the board pursuant to NCSB policy code, which states in part, the board may, quote, dispose of real property of any value by private negotiation and sale where said property is significant for its cultural or historical associations and is to be sold to a nonprofit corporation or trust whose purposes include the preservation or conservation of properties of cultural and historical significance. These requests have been denied despite precedent being set in June when NCSB staff was, quote, directed to speak with a group based in Chicago. Those private negotiations clearly had a profound impact on several board members who subsequently moved to accept that group's offer on the property, despite it being roughly $30,000 below the market value offer submitted by longstanding community partner in the Buck
Thank
Leonard
you, Mr.
Association.
Richardson. Next speaker, Sarah Dixon on Zoom. Sarah Dixon.
Hey, good evening. I came to speak to this board back in August for the initial mask vote. Since then, I've had the benefit of having personal experience between my oldest son's optional mask environment at a local private school and my younger son's mask mandate at Inglewood Elementary. In my family's personal experience, there have been the exact same number of COVID cases in each of their classrooms. And thankfully, neither of my boys have needed to quarantine. There's fear in the unknown. And unfortunately, I believe that has guided the majority vote of this board on this issue. Without a comparison group that doesn't require masking, you have nothing to compare the mandate to. It's difficult or impossible to isolate the effect of masks. You can't prove masking completely works when we are still experiencing cases. You can't argue it would work without them when students and teachers have never had that option. Study after study suggests that mask benefits remain uncertain at best, specifically with children in school settings. Here's what we do know. There is no evidence of more outbreaks in mask optional schools relative to schools with mask mandates. You're continuing to implement a protocol with no clear benefit, no end date, and very serious downsides, obvious social, emotional, and educational harms, that you continue to hear about at these board meetings. Of those voting for the mask mandate to continue, do you truly believe an option for students, teachers, and visitors puts those who want masks at risk, or anyone for that matter? Have you investigated how other counties in our state are learning flexibility so that our children have the best learning environment possible? For example, requiring masking during certain times, in specific classrooms for a certain period of time if there's an exposure, or if case counts increase or transmission rates increase. If others can do it, I believe we can also. Thank you.
Next speaker, Christine Melton on Zoom.
Good evening. Thank you for welcoming me. I want to talk about the Buck Leonard, what should be the Buck Leonard Municipal Stadium. I was so amazed and awestruck when I was introduced to the Buck Leonard Association. I met them through the Thelonious Monk family. Thelonious Monk III is a dear friend of mine. And they were doing a STEM program leading towards a STEAM program. And they introduced me to Miss Rose Hunter, the COO, CEO of the Buck Leonard Association. I came to Rocky Mount. I saw what they were doing. And I do theater. So I first came here in 2018 to meet Evan Covington Chavez, who is the executive at the Rocky Mount Mill, and to do a theater project that I was doing for her, a reading in progress about the Battle family. But that's another story. I'm here now doing a play on Susan B. Anthony, along with Ida B. Wells and Frederick Douglass, etc. And the STEAM program has something that Rocky Mount hasn't had much of for these underserved youth, and the fact that the Buck Leonard Association has been doing it for 20 years, I found so incredible. And I got to live at the Buck Leonard House Museum. I'm their first artist in residence. And during my stay there, I've seen the visitors come to see the Buck Leonard House, and they are in awe. It's like they've arrived at the Holy Shrine. So when I see tourists pose for photos in front of the Muck mural, and I see that same reverence when people pose at the Buck Leonard House Museum, I say, wow, if this stadium were only to be named after Buck Leonard, this Negro League and Baseball Hall of Fame hero, then this could be an extension of the Cooperstown Baseball Hall of Fame. And so listening to Evan Covington Chavez talk about what she's doing to make the Rocky Mount Mill flourish, and seeing what Brooke Edwards is doing with the Imperial Center, hearing what the mayor and city council talk about.
Thank you.
Which things are
This
being
time,
funded.
Shonda Boone will be speaking on Zoom.
Good evening, board members. I just want to take a moment to thank you guys for what you're doing thus far. As far as the mask mandate are concerned, we appreciate everything that you're doing and your efforts to keep everyone safe. And so, as we've heard tonight from several parents and concerned citizens, that the masks may not be as effective as we would hope. But as the old folk would say years ago, that it's better to be safe than sorry. And so I would encourage you guys to continue to do what you're doing in your efforts to keep everyone safe. There are a lot of options that everyone can take. And I think you guys are choosing the best one by allowing, by having a general or a baseline or about what you guys want to do as far as keeping the mask as a requirement. And I think that's the best thing to do. We hear a lot about fear and not accepting the facts. Well, a lot of those who are speaking about those things are doing just as you guys are doing, which is going on the internet or listening to the media about the numbers about or statistics. So it's great that you guys are listening to the health professionals and making your calls based on that. So I just want to thank you guys for that, because as we've seen tonight, there have been several people who have come up to the podium who chose not to wear a mask or who chose to speak without even wiping the podium down, which is a clear indicator that we're not ready to go without masks, because if adults can't take those safety precautions, then we shouldn't expect children to do anything greater. We know they're smart creatures and we know they're able to do and learn a lot, but we don't want to do that. Another thing that I did want to point out is a lot of times we like to talk about Christ, but Christ asked us to do one particular thing, and that was to love our neighbors as though we love ourselves. And he also asked us to subject ourselves to authority. And so it bothers me or baffles me how a lot of times people can say that you guys aren't doing what you're supposed to do because you're following what the authorities have suggested that we do, which is to continue to use the mask. So I just encourage you guys to continue to make those decisions based on fact and not just people making statements because of their underlying desire to just have their way. We might as well go ahead and say it and be clear about it. It's just about people having their way and not wanting to adhere to authority. That same authority they would criticize others for not applying or adhering to. Secondly, as a bus driver at National Rocky Mount Public Schools, I commend the young lady who came up and spoke about letting us see it, showing us that we are appreciated, because a lot of us are not feeling that same, are not feeling that love from, unfortunately, from the board members. And that's where my issue come in. I think right now, a lot of your bus drivers, teachers,
Thank you.
everyone.
Next speaker will be Bat Butler on Zoom. Bat Butler.
Hey, I hope everybody can hear me okay. I just, I spoke the first time about a month ago. If you remember, I brought up that I had a daughter who is a student that I feel like any teacher would love to have. She wakes up excited about coming to school until she's on the way and realizes she doesn't have a mask, which usually, leads her to feel like she's done something wrong or feeling some type of way. Kind of ruins the whole day, honestly, which I don't think is fair to any of these children. If you want to wear a mask, I think that's great. I'm not opposed to it. No different than some people want a vaccine, some people don't. I feel like that should be a choice. As far as, and to go back to what the gentleman just said, as far as authority, school board is, I don't see you guys as a ruling authority. You're in there to represent us as a whole. And we do appreciate everything you do. I even appreciate the board members who aren't currently voting in the favor of what I would like to see. I do want to go back to the toolkit that was brought up last time I was present. I hate I couldn't be there in person today. There were numbers that were showing basically every single case that's being reported at the school somehow is coming from outside. I believe she called it a secondary. It was either primary or secondary. I can't remember, but I just think it's kind of odd that you put several thousand kids into different buildings and somehow none of the cases came from school, which would only support, your rule to have a mask. I think it can, it's common sense that if you look at, we'll say what Red Oak did for Halloween. I was there. There was, I would say, several thousand people present. Everybody in line, shoulder to shoulder, being normal. I mean, not saying anybody was being unsafe. I just think you could tell who was tired of living in fear. And that being said, there were people from all walks of life. And somehow or another, they all went back to school after being all around each other, and there wasn't some blowout case of COVID. So I think it's pretty clear that mask or no mask, it's not really affecting these children. So you should give these parents a choice. I'd like to have a choice. And I don't know if you've noticed, but all of the private schools are not requiring masks, and somehow they're still operational every day. Other than that, I mean, I know you're going to vote how you want to vote. I really hope you take into consideration that when I was there last week or last month, I think we had 10 people speaking. I believe they said 22 tonight. That could be 44, 88, list goes on. But everybody's fed up. And I think it's time for us to move forward. Make it a choice. Parents are parents. We deserve to do what we want to do.
Next speaker, Kyle Johnson. Kyle Johnson.
Hello, I'm on Zoom.
Okay.
We know that COVID isn't going away anytime soon. Our collective goal should be to equip each person with the best tools to fight it and to lessen as much disruption in the educational system as possible while it's here. And I find it interesting that so many people are disqualifying the school board's ability to listen to the foremost experts in health and disease, while also saying that they are qualified above and beyond those literal experts who inform us on what to do within the areas of their expertise. The experts tell us that masks and vaccinations help prevent the spread. With this in mind, I think that the least that we could do is wait another month in which all students and families have reasonable time to get fully vaccinated without hindrance to help build up more immunity within the population before giving families the option to mask or unmask. And from my understanding, based on what Nurse Terrell told us in one of the previous meetings, students in the classroom with someone who tests positive will not have to be quarantined if the other students are masked. Unmasked students who are with someone else who tests positive for more than 15 minutes and less than a 6-foot space would need to quarantine for 14 days. And so this to me makes sense. This alone should be why we continue to wear masks. It would help to keep students in school. It limits quarantine days, prevents loss of learning, and teachers won't have to do more work to support those who are quarantined for 2 weeks. I know of a local school that doesn't require masks, which had to send entire grades home because of the spread of COVID within the schools. They caught it outside of school because they didn't wear masks. They brought it to a school that didn't require masks, and it spread like wildfire. But that isn't in the newspaper. That isn't being told. Teachers have enough to deal with without having to do an ever-increasing amount of emergency lesson planning to ensure equal and proper education for students who can't be there in person. It is already too much work on them. It will increase without masks. Don't stress the very population that is holding on by a thread. Schools are about children. They are the priority. They're the most important part of it. But remember, the children have absolutely nothing without those who are working in the system. We cannot function if we lose school bus drivers through a walkout. We cannot function if we lose teachers to the last straw. To minimize their importance is an absolute travesty. We have to listen to the experts and best practices. Masks have to be worn because they are not worn elsewhere. Masks help prevent COVID from spreading in schools. And I've heard a lot of people say things that aren't based in facts, reality, or reputable data. And I appeal to you to make a vote based on best practices and guidance from qualified and certified experts. I also think that we confuse the idea of rights and freedom. Every family submits to the things that the school system dictates must happen, including dress code, attendance, and behavior if they choose to engage in public schools. Masks aren't a loss of social freedom. It's a compliance with a safety measure. Safety measures are not abuse. They are necessary. Sweaters, coats, and multiple layers in 99-degree weather could be abuse. In 30-degree weather, it is care. Right now, we're in a pandemic. If we care for students, let them wear masks until at least one more month where more families can get vaccinated, then make it an option. But right now, we need masks in schools.
Thank you. Next speaker, Celeste Beatty.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes. Ms. Beatty, you muted yourself. We could hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. My name is Celeste Beatty. I'm speaking on behalf of in support of the Buck Leonard Foundation and its desire to have a connection to the municipal stadium, to operate its programming from the stadium, to have the stadium name in honor of Buck Leonard. I was struck by the stadium when I moved to Rocky Mount in 2018 as part of a project at the Rocky Mount Mill. And I stayed in Rocky Mount because I fell in love with the beauty of the community, its history, and its legacy. Earlier you heard Tad Richardson speak about the Buck Leonard Foundation and its work. I happened to go there to the municipal stadium this morning. I've been there before, but I just wanted to revisit the stadium just to get a sense of the spirit of the place and all of the work that's happened there in the past and the possibilities of the future. And what struck me when I was there this morning, I just thought to myself, what would Buck Leonard want to see happen with this stadium? What could we do with the stadium to include all of the community in celebrating his legacy and providing programming for the children that we've heard many of the parents speak about with regard to the vaccine? And I believe with all my heart, as I've also visited the Buck Leonard House, I've driven down Buck Leonard Boulevard and had a chance to learn about that legacy, that it would be more than appropriate to put the stadium within the programming of the Buck Leonard Foundation. And I'm really appealing to the board to consider that, consider the inspiration that that stadium would represent, and looking at the legacy of the Buck Leonard Foundation and its work and how that can inspire young people. So I wanted to come to you this evening to ask you to look at what the statute says and really give them a really good look and consider and make the decision to allow the Buck Leonard Foundation to continue that legacy, to offer its programming to young people in the community. As you move forward with your discussions, please reach out and see what you can do to work with them to make that possible. And if there's anything I can do as a
Thank you.
resident, I greatly appreciate
Time
it.
is up.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. That ends our public input for this time. We will go to NCP Safe Schools 21-22 COVID update. Face covering requirement.
Good evening, Chair Lamb, Vice Chair Sharp, Dr. Ellis, and members of the board. We have got our monthly presentation for you with the COVID CDC data, as well as our the data that our nurses track. So we do not have any updates for you on the Strong Schools Public Health Toolkit. There were some updates in November that were related to the COVID vaccine moving down to 5 to 11-year-olds, but no changes to the existing quarantine requirements that have been in the toolkit for some time. So the COVID metrics from the Center for Disease Control. As you know, the level of community transmission is the rating that the toolkit suggests we use for making masking decisions, or one of many. We had been, both Nash and Edgecombe had been substantial orange rating up until last week. So week ending December 3rd, we moved back into the high level of community transmission. Our percent positivity over the last 7 days as of Friday was 6.62 in Nash County, 8.99 in Edgecombe. This is the hospital admission percent of beds used and ICU. It has taken a slight uptick as well. And then this is the percent of the population with at least one dose, increasing steadily over the last 4 weeks in both Nash and Edgecombe. So this is the data that our nurses collect. These are the number of new cases over the last 5 weeks since our last board meeting. And you see that we did take a significant decrease, but we have moved back up to higher than we were at the beginning of November as of last week, week ending 12/3. And these are the quarantine numbers for staff and students. And again, those kind of match the number of positive cases that we've seen in our schools. And last week was the first week in quite some time that we had to report a cluster at one of our schools, and we had to close 2 classrooms as well last week due to the number of positive cases and the masking in those locations. And so I'm going to have Christy Grant come forward and talk about on-site COVID testing.
Good evening. We just wanted to give you an update on our on-site COVID testing that we have been doing. So far, we have tested 905 students, and we have about a 6% positivity rate among those that we've tested. We've gotten about 1,353 that are now registered for testing. So as we are continuing to go, and the nurses are calling for exposures or symptoms, our parents are able to easily get a test. They actually, we're actually able to even shorten the quarantine time from 14 days down to 7, with parents bringing their kids back at day 5 and being tested. And if they're negative, then they return to school. So there's a real quick turnaround time for results. And we just wanted to kind of give you an update on where we are right now with that.
So as you know, Senate Bill 654 requires that we have a monthly vote on the face covering requirements. In November, this board voted to continue the face mask requirement, and pursuant to Session Law 2021-130 Senate Bill 654, the superintendent requests approval of face covering requirements.
Okay, at this time, we will take a roll call vote. A yes means we will continue with the mask, a no means it will be optional. Ms. Chavis?
May I preface my vote by a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
I do feel the pain of so many students that are having to wear these. I have family member, all of my 6 kids went through the Nash County school system. I currently have grandkids and great grands at Nashville Elementary, Red Oak Middle, and Northern Nash. So to assume that board members are not part of this suffering, that's not the case. However, in trying to take a strong educational look at what we should use as guidance to make these votes, it is not always popular to be in this seat. However, there are a lot of people other than just select that we have to consider in making these choices. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention still is saying to us, and we're looking at the numbers that we were just reviewing from our staff, when you wear masks, it protects others as well as yourself. Masks work best when everyone wears them. And I'm looking directly at their site. People age 2 and older should wear a mask in public settings and when around people who do not live in their households. I hear the bus drivers. Some of these people are retired. They have pre-existing conditions, and there's a concern of being contagious. You heard someone say recently, if we can just do a little bit longer till we have more parents who are able to make the choice of whether to vaccinate or not to vaccinate. But we have to look at the whole picture. And in looking at this whole picture, as tied as I am to of these masks, I have to vote for what I think is not just a select few, but the whole majority of all of the students and faculty and staff. So once again, my vote is to keep the mask on. And I pray to God by the next meeting, we are in better shape with numbers, because I will be happier than anybody else to vote to take these off. But I have to vote what my heart and my spirit is saying, and that is to keep them on a little bit longer.
I'm glad you were able to breathe one.
Excuse me,
John.
officer.
Mr. Edwards, how do you vote?
I actually do have kids in this system. My vote is no. It's time for it to be optional.
My vote is no. Time to be optional like it's been every time. Parental option. Mr. Bissett.
I'd like to add, I agree with some of the things you said, Ms. Chavis, and I agree with something you touched on that our public spoke on tonight. What is the end game? So I think we as a board need to start having some discussions for our staff, for our parents of what put us in this, what moved that, set a goalpost. We've got to start having some discussions as a group, whether it's another meeting, something, superintendent start putting something together, whether it's numbers, positive, whatever. Okay. But my vote is no, but let's put something together that we can at least try and obtain and reach, so we'll start knowing what the end game is.
Mr. Sharp.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. I'm gonna keep mine short and simple. My vote is yes.
Mr. Dunton.
I vote no, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jenkins.
No.
Mr. Silver.
Yes.
Ms. Washington.
I just want to state for the record that I have a child in the system. And also it takes everybody doing their part to move the metrics for me. The metrics don't move positively, then we have to do everything to keep everybody safe. My vote is yes.
Ms. E. Bullock.
Thank you for the comments to those who made comments this evening. I heard you, but I also hear those voices who are not here, who telephone me, who speak to me when I'm in the streets, and I listen to both sides. But my ultimate decision has got to be made based on what I think is best for the majority. I hear both groups, but my vote will stand as a yes, because I believe personally that that is the best thing for all of our children.
Thank you, Ms. S. Bullock.
Just for the record, I am a mother of 3 children in this system from kindergarten through middle school, for the record. And I agree with what's being said. I would love to see masks come off, but I don't think that we're ready. We're not at that point, and we always have to err on the side of caution. And I think that's important for us to remember. I will not stand beside our teachers and our bus drivers. And I also keep our children in mind and what they go through, and I totally understand that. However, I think at this time, as we move through the year and past the holidays, I think it's best that we keep masks on. So my vote is yes.
Okay, the vote's 6-5 in favor of wearing masks for another term. Mr. Sharp, I think, has a comment.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. One of the things I will tell you, over the last 2 or 3 months, I've been in just about every elementary school in this district. I've talked to teachers, I talked to students, I looked at their performance, how they performed, how they learned, and I have been overall impressed with the mask mandate and how it's going on inside the schools. That's why I'm saying maintain.
Our children's health are on y'all's hands. I want you to know that, and it's on your hands.
Excuse me. This time donations, Dr. Catalano.
Okay. Go for it.
Good evening, Chair Lamb, Vice Chair Sharp, Dr. Ellis, and members of the board. You have a donation letter provided in your packet and assembly for all of the donations. We've had a lot of them that were provided to our office that were valued in $200 or more, in keeping in compliance with policy 8220, gifts and bequests. The total fiscal implication for all of the donations this month is $9,114.82. Southern Nash Middle School received a donation from Bunn Family Farm in the amount of $520 to be used for the FFA program. Middlesex Elementary School received 2 donations. One $500 donation from Middlesex Police Department for use in their Shop with a Cop program, and another in the amount of $1,000 from Rock Spring Free Will Baptist to be used for general funds for students in need. Red Oak Middle School received a donation valued at $733.95 in the form of curriculum resources donated from Nash Autism Seeking Hope. And those are to be used in their self-contained EC classrooms. Rocky Mount Middle School received a donation from Wake Electric Care on behalf of the Bright Idea Electric Cooperative, on behalf of the Bright Idea Project. They were given a grant in the amount of $2,360.87 to be used for their band program. Englewood Elementary School received a donation of $2,500 to be used for the Hallowasaponi Tribal Council and craft supplies. This donation was from the Leon Carter Foundation. Bailey Elementary School received 2 donations, one from Union Chapel Original Free Will Baptist Church in the amount of $500 for their Backpack Buddies program, and a second from Rock Springs Free Will Baptist Church in the amount of $1,000, also to be used for their Backpack Buddies program. The superintendent recommends approval of all donations as presented.
So moved. I will entertain a motion to accept the donations. So moved. Motion by Mr. Silver. I have entertained a second. Ms. Chavis, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Personnel recommendations, Ms. Wallace.
Good evening, Chairman Lamb, Vice Chair Sharp, President, virtual board members. The personnel report has been presented and reviewed on behalf of Superintendent Ellis. Your approval of the personnel report is requested.
So moved. Second. Motion by Mr. Sharp, second by Mr. Silver. Accept the personnel recommendations. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Personnel recommendations for information only. Ms. Wallace.
Board does not have to approve this report.
Okay, thank you. Retention bonus, Ms. Wallace.
Okay. Retention bonus, we are, on behalf of Dr. Ellis, requesting your approval of a retention bonus for all of our employees. The employees that are eligible for their retention bonus: child nutrition, maintenance, transportation, custodians, drivers, monitors, technicians, clerical, teacher assistants, instructional facilitators, psychologists, instructional coaches, specialists, which include CTE, nurses, coordinators, parent liaisons, and teachers. We will also include in this retention bonus principals, assistant principals, and interns. The group of employees for Nash County Public Schools that are not eligible for this retention bonus includes the superintendent, assistant superintendents, executive directors, and directors. And we're operating right now with the CARES 1 budget of $1.4 million.
I will entertain a motion to accept the retention.
Second.
What's the motion?
You make the motion, but
What's
the
the
amount,
motion? Yeah.
the
I make
amount.
the motion that we approve the retention bonuses as presented.
For seven
Is there
fifty.
more?
For the amount of $700.
Isn't there more of the presentation to go?
It's just to make a
sorry.
decision if you all will make a decision to approve either the 500 amount or 750
Do I
amount.
need to restate the
employee.
motion for the record?
I jumped again too quick. Ms. Washington, go
You
ahead.
want to restate the motion for the record?
Yes, ma'am.
I make the motion that we approve the retention bonuses in the amount of $750 for the stated employees as presented by Ms. Wallace.
Motion by Ms. Washington, second by Mr. Silver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried.
I would like to say This will be paid in December, so it will be included in the December's payroll for all of the employees that are eligible, and it will be paid in full in one payment.
Okay. Also, we had amendment number 6, substitute increase.
Make the motion that we approve these substitute pay rate as presented in closed session.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Washington, second by Ms. Chambers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise, motion carried.
Thank you.
Administrative Services and Operation Committee, Mr. Sharp.
Mr. Chair, on last Monday, we had one item for information only that was presented to the board, as well as the 10 items that's listed below for approval. I make a recommendation that we approve those 10 items that's on the agenda from the Administrative Service Committee from last Monday.
Any questions directed to Mr. Sharp about any of those items that were for approval? If not, I will entertain a motion. Oh, go ahead.
Do we not need to approve the audit report as well?
That was up there for information only from that audit report.
I think it needs to be approved, does it not?
Historical.
Does
Normally do, yes.
Okay, we
So
do.
we'll make an action item for all 11 items, including that audit report that was shared with us on last Monday.
That budget will be approved also. Motion by Mr. Sharp. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Bullock. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Student Support Services and Operations, Ms. Washington.
The Student Support Services and Operations Committee met last week, and there was one item for approval. Mr. Farrell presented the school safety plans and explained the process of submission of those plans. And so the committee recommends to the board approval of the school safety plans.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So
the second.
moved.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Sharp, second by Ms. Chavez. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Academic Services and Accountability. Mr. Powell presented a Rethink Education District Partnership. Mr. Powell is here. This is for information only. Does anybody have any questions about that? Any board member? Thank you. That was for information only. Policy Committee, Ms. Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have several policies on the table tonight for final approval. They would be policy number 6315, policy 6305, policy 6321, 3470, 6450, 8310, 6320, and policy 4400 and policy 3102. I move that we approve these policies for final approval.
Motion by Ms. Bullock. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Silver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Policy recommendations.
We have several policies that are laying on the table for the first time. I would like to make a correction on your list, though, if I remember correctly. When the policy committee met, we took policy number 2302 off, pending additional information. And so, we didn't approve it to be recommended. So we shouldn't vote.
Oh, right. Actually, there's a thing that we need to
Okay, policy 2302 should not be on our list for approval tonight. We will, the policy committee needed more information on that policy that was not available when we met. First, I would like to list 3 policies that we asked to have approved tonight because of the CTE audit that will take place in December, and we would like to have those policies approved tonight. That would be policy 1720/4030/7235, Title 9, Non-Discrimination on the Basis of Sex. Policy number 1725 and policy 1725/4035/7236. Title 9, Sexual Harassment Prohibited Conduct and Reporting Process. And the final one would be 1726/4030/7237, Title 9, Sexual Harassment Grievance Process. I move that we approve these tonight and waive the 30 days.
Motion by Ms. Bullock,
Second.
second by Ms. Chavis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carries. Superintendent's report.
I'm not finished yet.
Oh, excuse me.
That's a lot of policies.
We have some policies to present to the board for the first read. Those policies would be policy 1310, policy 2125/7315, policy 4050,
Good one.
policy, I'm sorry,
Nothing, I thought it's a good one. Go ahead. That's the one.
4700, policy 4720, policy 5020, policy 5030, policy 5210, policy 9000, policy and policy 2300, policy 2310, and policy 9020. I move that we approve these policies and have them lay on the table for 30 days.
Motion by Ms. Bullock. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Sharp. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Now, superintendent's report.
You doing, Ms. Book?
Her time's up.
All right, so I just want to thank parents in the community for their participation tonight. It is very important that we hear from you. And I think it's only positive when your voices are heard. So I'm just going to say that because that was a lot of speakers tonight, but that's how it should be, because it's about your child's education. That's important to be. So I did want to give you some budget highlights because I do agree that teachers and our classified and certified need to be rewarded. So I was going to give you some quick budget highlights that will affect us. Teachers are going to be getting a 5% raise over 2 years. Principals are getting a 2.5% increase. They're also going to have performance bonuses back in the budget. Our non-certified personnel will be receiving $13 an hour. If they make more than that, they get a 2.5% increase. Next year, it will be $15 an hour. And if they make more than that, they get another 2.5%. So that's good news for us. Central office, 2.5% increase. Retirees, Mr. Lamb, you get a 5% cost of living supplement.
Good.
Now, the one thing that I am glad we're getting, and it echoes what we did tonight, teacher bonuses. Teachers can make up to now, since we've given a $750 bonus. If my addition is correct, they'll be getting about $3,500 bonus. And our classified, we get about $2,250. That is great news for a hardworking group. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Chair report. The board wishes to report that it has entered a settlement agreement with Dr. Shelton Jeffries regarding the reimbursement of funds that were expended by Dr. Jeffries for travel expenses and use of school system vehicle during his tenure as superintendent of the Nash County Public Schools. In response to findings and conclusions published by the North Carolina Office of the State Auditor and subsequent requests by the board, Dr. Jeffries has provided receipts in the amount of $14,330.70 for some of the expenses agreed to reimburse the board in the total amount of $30,324.92. $25,000 to be paid as part of the settlement plus $5,324.92 he has previously paid to the district in full settlement of all claims. The board believes this constitutes a reasonable conclusion to this matter and has accepted the $30,324.92 in exchange for a release of claims. And one other thing I'd like to report on, we had numerous speakers about the baseball field tonight. The board has previously voted to start the upset bid process at $60,000. We're looking at a $3,000 deposit to start this process. And the board believes because we had the upset bid process for Spalding Elementary School and O.R. Pope Elementary School, that this is a fair and reasonable way to conduct this because we've got many other schools or things that could be up for auction also. And this is a fair way to represent our stewardship of taxpayer money. I just want to be clear on that. So $3,000 deposit will start the upset bid process. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And next meetings, the policy committee meeting will be Thursday, January the 6th at 5 p.m. Administrative services and committee meeting Thursday, January the 6th. Student support services and operations Thursday, January the 6th. Academic services and accountability committee meeting Thursday, January the 6th. January work session will be Monday, January the 10th at 5 p.m. January board meeting will be Monday, January 10th at 6:30 p.m. Are there any other questions any board member would like to add this time? Mr. Sharp.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to ask the superintendent, we've been hearing a lot of conversation regarding the merger with the Nash County Edgecombe system. I would ask that with superintendent, we would be proactive to start working with the Edgecombe County Board of Education or their school systems, because it's all about kids. And if this happens and when it happens, we want to see a smooth transition in what needs to be done. So if you could help come to the table with a timeline, working with your counterpart in Edgecombe to work something out, that would be great.
Be glad to. Ms. Bullock?
Mr. Chair, when will we start looking at redistricting based on the census? When are we going to hire a demographer to make sure that we are compliant?
I would hope that would start in January.
So yeah, we did that for you last time, and we will be doing that for you this time. We've been in contact with the Board of Elections, and given that your filing period's June or July-ish, we are trying to do some of those that have filing periods like right now first, but we will be moving to yours in the early spring of the year. Adam Mitchell, who did it last time for the board, is taking the lead on that.
And I'm fine with that, but do we not, as the board, need to approve that before it actually begins?
Approve what?
Yeah.
The hiring of your firm, Adam, to do the.
That can be put on the agenda for the January meeting.
Well, you can, but I mean, that year we were not your regular board attorney. So you were hiring outside counsel. Now that we are your lawyer, unless you don't want us, right? If you don't want us to do it, that's fine. But we otherwise, yeah, okay. Yeah, no, we would, it's just like any other regular service that we provide for our regular clients. But yeah, I mean, we were not your counsel 10 years ago, right? So you hired us as outside counsel.
Any other questions? I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Bizzett, second by Mr. Sharp. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Thank you.